strike me, and I would love your thoughts on, both of you, is you see the shredding of the norms. You see, him attacking people that disagree with him. And then, anybody who's loyal to him gets defended, and you can see these clear signs of a fascist regime, whether it's, the attacks on the rule of law, the continuation of lock her up, who her is changes, but the sentiment stays the same. His opponents, the unprecedented attacks on whole sections of people, the Christian fascists in the judiciary, the anti-science, all of that. And then people still will say, well, we've got November. And I don't know if people don't get or are willfully denying that once this gets consolidated, this being fascism, it closes off the ability for anyone inside or outside the halls of power to challenge or stop them. And I think I would like to hear your thoughts on, how do we help people confront this and act accordingly with this fascist denialism?
Coco, your engine is revved. You go first.
So, I mean, first I want to say that there's an article also on our homepage that was originally from RevCom called "Fascism Denialism is as Dangerous Climate Denialism," and it's a very important read. And yeah, there does come a point where it becomes too late to actually stop millions of people from being harmed once the regime consolidates power. We are sort of in a race for time. And so it is really important that we really confront people on understanding that you have to step out of normal channels to stop this fascism. And so, I mean, just exactly on the lines that Sam was talking about yesterday, and not to call this out, I really like this podcast, Deconstructed, with Mehdi Hassan, and he was interviewing somebody, and I can't remember her name right now, but they had a really rich discussion, used the word fascistic, talked about how Trump might not step down if he loses the election. And where I was listening really closely, and where he asked two questions, and there was a crucial question he did not ask. And I'm starting to think that this is a big part of where this fascism denialism lies, and how we need to break through to the other side. The two questions he asked were, what should the media be doing? Because the media has been complicit, right? And what should the Democrats do? After saying that there wasn't that much that the Democrats could do. But the question he did not ask was, what should we do? And it just really struck me that a lot of this denialism is to get out of that question, what do we do? What should we do? And looking for the savior that in these norms that are being shredded, these people who are being demonized. I mean, I got a tweet saying that the Democrats are the democrats, right? These people, this like the extreme end of this base, which is very activated, actually believes that the opposition is possessed, by demons. So this is not a movement that's just going to go away through an election, right? So I think that is one way that I just kind of been, and I'm speaking for myself here, but just constantly saying, what are you going to do about this? Sarah, you raised this point that what we allow is not what we condone, it's what we become. You are becoming somebody by waiting for November. And is that the person you want to become? And I think we do have to help people follow their own logic. You've got like, and I've been listening to this podcast for a while, and he's come a long way to even say that this is fascistic. But now, okay, follow your logic to the next step. And I think that's, and another thing is, I guess I want to also throw this out, is where, you have fascism denialism from the fascists themselves, right? And they'll say like, you're the fascists, or, they'll call me names and stuff. And I sort of think when that happens, like on Twitter, or if you're out in the street, if you're answering them more for the audience, right? Like for people who get confused when fascists say the Democrats are being fascist because they're shutting down the economy. You have to answer that not for them, because you're not going to convince them, but for the people who are listening. But then there's all the denialism among the people who really are on the side of humanity and are just, stuck in a line of thinking that is actually taking them down a road to complicity. So I was wondering if you have any thoughts on like how you handle that, or what you think. Have you had any epiphanies lately?
No, I mean, like not completely new epiphanies. I see the process continuing, that's been continuing, which is part of why I wrote that Drinks at Sobibor piece, which was really about that you can become something that you didn't mean to be. There, the book recommendation I would like to make is They Thought They Were Free. And oh gosh, I think the last name of the author is Mayer, M-A-Y-E-R, who is this is just post-war. He's a Jewish scholar who went to Germany and befriended these various guys who had been in the Nazi party, some of them because they were Nazis, some because they didn't want to get shot, and befriended them. They didn't know he was Jewish. He didn't volunteer the information. So he got really quite intimate conversations and confessions from these men. And one of them, who was an engineer and very thoughtful, explained that because everybody at that time after the war was asking, how did this happen? Germans are not, they're not apes, they're not savages. How did this all become possible in a civilized country? And in fact, in one of the countries which was up to then considered one of the friendliest countries for Jews and sexual minorities and other people. And he said, well, it doesn't just happen in all one step. You don't go from step A to step E. It comes in stages, and if you didn't resist at stage B, then why should you resist at stage C? And if you didn't do anything at stage C, then what's one more stage? And then suddenly one day you're hearing your small child say death to Jew swine, and you realize that you've allowed this monstrosity to happen right under your nose. I'm paraphrasing him, but that was basically what he said. What he said was that you can become somebody you didn't intend to be by your inaction and by remaining in an environment that's becoming more and more poisonous and not questioning it and not resisting it. And that was why he counted himself as guilty, even though his joining the Nazi party was just to keep his job. So that's, I found that very powerful. And that's, I think, what a lot of the denialism is about. I've been at presentations where people have straight up said to me, if you pin them down, they will say this. Well, the problem is, if I agreed with you that it was fascism, then I would have to do something about it. Then I would need to do something radical about it. And I'm like, okay, so you just reason backwards from your desired conclusion. You don't want to do that, so it must not be fascism. That's not okay. And there I will agree with Bob Avakian here. By the way, I do want to put in the caveat for folks watching that I am not personally a communist of any kind, including a RCP communist. There are points on which I don't agree with Bob Avakian, and especially as a sort of mainstreamish Democrat. Sometimes his criticisms of the party are fair, sometimes they are not. But I would encourage people, even in my sector of politics, which was considered wild and out there in the 90s and is no longer considered out there. It's very mainstream now. Open your mind and listen to people whose ideologies are different from yours. If their base principles are where they need to be, that humanity is human, you know, all humans are humanity. Humanity has to come first. The planet has to survive. Science is a thing. You know, these basic principles, if they're there for them, and Bhavavekian is there for those principles, you know, listen to what he has to say. You don't have to agree with all of it, but there are, the reason that he is quoted in some of these materials is that he has a point. And one of those points he makes is that you can't reason backwards from what you wanted to do anyway to what the facts are. You don't get to do that. The facts have to be what the facts are, and you have to proceed from them. And you don't get to make them up. You get your own opinions, but you don't get your own facts, as the proverb says.
I think this is really important, and I think we'll probably have to end on this, but you know, we don't have to agree on everything, but if you agree that the future of humanity and the planet is worth saving, and that this regime is a blocking issue for anything good that any of us want, then join us and let's make a united front under this this demand. Trump, Pence must go.
Yes.
And we don't have to agree. We can argue it out in
Yes.
you know, the streets as we're working non-violently, or we can, you know, or you know, virtually right now. But join us and really let's dig into what it is that is you know, holding people back, and how do we help with our arms wide open, welcome them into this this really just cause that is historic. So with that, I want to say I love talking to you, Sarah. We need to do this more often, and I'm going to pass it back to Samantha. Thank you.
Always, Coco.
I don't want to add any more words. That was a really important way to end this. I just want to add, let's continue this discussion. Let's share this live, continue to share it, continue to discuss with your friends and family and neighbors what was brought up in this live and what is in the Refuse Fascism Statement of Conscience and Call to Act. Go to refusefascism.org, read it, share it, sign it, and donate to make it a force in the world. Refusefascism.org. You can donate there, and at Venmo, refuse-fascism. We need to stay safe, not silent. Trump, Pence, out now.
Out now.
Now.
Thank you both for joining. See you soon.
Bye.
Yep.